What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it. This video is driven with the purpose to kind of make clear what the purpose of Bitcoin is, what the purpose of BTC and blockchain and crypto is. Okay? Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of crypto, of Bitcoin, and why it is the future. In this sense, it literally is the evolution of finance, right? What do I mean by evolution? I mean, at one point we were trading, you know, chickens and cows and eggs and whatever stuff. We had trade. At another point we had gold coins, right? At another point we had notes, right? We evolved to the next phase in evolution of currency. We had notes and currency that was backed by gold, and now we're at this evolution in currency where we have currency that is not backed by gold. It's just backed by our belief, which is the US dollar, right? It's not backed by anything other than, treasury yield bonds and stuff like that. It kind of is, and it kind of isn't, right? It's all kind of fugazi at the end of the day. And even more significant than that, we have an evolution in currency known as digital transactions with debiting and crediting. And finally, we are at this precipice of our lifetimes where the evolution of currency has brought us to cryptocurrency, brought us to Bitcoin. Okay, so the reason why, and I actually had a friend that inspired this video, asked me, they understand the tokenomics, they understand like what Bitcoin does, but they still understand why Bitcoin is money, like what makes it money. And simply put, it's money if you believe it's money. And that's not really an attractive answer to people who are trying to figure this out. But if you think about it, that's exactly how the dollar is. It's just money because we believe it's money. It's money because people use it. Why do people use the U.S. dollar? Well, if it's backed by certain yield bonds, if you can get certain interest rates or loans taken out in it, taken out with it, there's value there. If you can transact it and everybody in society, you can spend $1 or $10 and everybody recognizes it as that price, there's value there, right? We're talking about the dollar right now, of course. It is inflationary, and that makes it, lose value versus itself over time. But a dollar is always worth $1, but that value of $1 goes down over time, right? It's inevitable. It's math, right? Inevitably, the dollar will continue to lose value. Now, people think the dollar is going to go to zero. I don't think that's true, at least not in my lifetime. I think that the dollar is here to stay for my lifetime, probably your kid's lifetime, and even my grandkid's lifetime. Maybe in my grandkid's lifetime it will go away, but I don't think it's going to go away. And I have my own beliefs for that, but just real quick on that note, my reasoning for that, just simply put, is that all the wealthy people in the world, they're not holding on to any other currency other than US dollars, right? I don't care what country you're in, they've got something to do with US dollars. And if all the wealthy people are holding this until they're out, it's going to be the world reserve currency. It's going to be something that's utilized, right? Because if it were to go to zero, all the wealthy people in the world lose their asses, and that's not how they work, right? At least not in my assumption. They're the ones that run the show. They're not the ones that get run over by the show. But if that happens, I suppose the dollar going to zero would shake things up in the world, but it wouldn't. I don't think, be a bad thing. But maybe it would. It'd be a bad thing short term. But that's a discussion for another video, I suppose. That's just my theories. We can agree to disagree on that. But no, I don't think that it's going to go to zero in our lifetime. But Bitcoin, getting back to Bitcoin, the US dollar is forever inflationary, or at least seemingly to be forever inflationary. We print our way out of our problems. And with that, every dollar that's being printed dilutes the value of the dollar. But if there's only a finite amount of Bitcoins, 21 million Bitcoins that exist, mathematically through supply and demand, here's the thing. If supply goes up and demand goes down, if supply goes up and demand remains the same, the value goes down, right? If supply goes down and demand stays the same, if supply goes down and demand goes up, value increases. Supply and demand, very fundamental figures of economics. With the US dollar, I would say that there's probably not much room left for demand to increase, but the supply is increasing every single day. It's destined to lose value. It is destined to. Unless we start burning dollars, unless we start deflating it, it's destined to lose value. Bitcoin, every 4 years, cuts the amount of supply that's being put into the markets in half, right? So it's being cut in half. It has an inflationary rate for a time until the 21st million Bitcoin is printed. It is inflationary, but the rate of inflation is deflationary, right? And every 4 years, that rate of inflation gets cut in half. It becomes less significant and less significant. Still significant because it's inflating, but really when Bitcoin has its 21st million Bitcoin printed, it will become a stationary asset, no longer inflationary. It won't be deflationary. People say it's deflationary. I mean, maybe versus the dollar, yes, but versus itself is just stationary, right? Um, and that's very valuable. There's nothing in the planet. I don't care what it is, gold, water, oil, right? There's a finite amount of that on the planet, but we don't know what that amount is. You can say that, we've gone through all the helium in the planet. We're gonna run out of helium in 5 or 10 years. They keep finding more helium somehow. You know what I mean? There's or vice versa for gold or oil. Maybe we do run out of gold on the planet, which I doubt is going to happen anytime soon again. But if that, or maybe ever, if it does happen, there's who's to say that we can't find gold on other planets or asteroids or stuff like that. We are getting into space exploration. SpaceX, speaking of space exploration, literally sent a shuttle, a robot, a mining unit out to an asteroid to mine precious minerals and stuff like that, and rare earths, not rare earths but rare materials, right? Stuff like that. So and I believe there's like supposed to be platinum on it, so they're literally going out to mine platinum now on an asteroid, right? So that's no longer sci-fi. That's happening right now. Actually, you can look that up if you want. Bitcoin, you can't go to another asteroid to mine it. You can't go to another planet to mine it. You're not going to find a secret well full of Bitcoin unless you find that guy's hard drive that's buried in the dump yard somewhere in the UK, if you know what I'm talking about. There's a guy that lost a bunch of Bitcoins. He didn't lose a bunch of Bitcoins. He threw them away. And now that Bitcoin's worth something, he wants it back, and he's trying to find it. And he's offering a bounty for anybody who helps him find it. I think it's like half, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin. So it's a good bounty, but maybe you find it and it doesn't work. I don't know, but with Bitcoin, there's only a finite amount, and if we can at least understand that year over year, every 5 year period, every 4 year period, every year period, Bitcoin is only gaining interest. The demand is only going up. Okay, the supply is being increased at a very low rate. The rate of inflation for Bitcoin is dramatically lesser than that of the US dollar. Okay, and it at one point will be stationary. It's just math. The majority of the world is still not on board with crypto, is not on board with Bitcoin, right? We were seeing institutions come in, but if you go out, we pick 10 random people, 100 random people, I would bet that less than half of them own Bitcoin, right? Or even know enough about it to talk about it, right? We're still in the early phases. The institutions, all the big dogs, they're getting on board now, and they've been on board really since 2017 or earlier, that we know of. But it's becoming like a worldwide thing now, where the elite, the wealthy, they are getting on board. It used to be a joke for a good bit of them, but now they all see how serious it is. Where the average person still doesn't, right? This does sound like that you've gotten in too late into crypto? No, probably not. If the elite are getting in, but the average person has really no clue what it is or what it does, and that's okay. If you're the average person, that's okay. Nobody did until they did. That's how it is, right? You might have heard of it, but you never looked into it. How many things besides crypto have been like that, right? Maybe it's for your health, maybe it's for a form of education, maybe it's a skill or a fun activity that you never took up, but people were trying to get you into it. Like sometimes we hear information and we just pass it off until we finally are bored enough to take it in, and that's okay. You get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. That's what people say in this space. But there's a finite amount. Mathematically speaking, fundamentally speaking, from the laws of economics, if there is such a thing, it's destined to gain value at least versus the dollar. Now, some people say Bitcoin doesn't gain value. Its value is what it is. It's just the dollar loses value, so that's why it goes. People think that Bitcoin's going up versus the dollar when really Bitcoin's doing this. It's just moving sideways. It's holding its value, and the dollar's losing its value. However you want to see it, Bitcoin versus the dollar will only gain in value. It's math. It's literally math at this point. It's not a, well, this could happen or this could, no, it's math. And why do some people think that Bitcoin could go to zero? Well, maybe they think it can get hacked. It's digital. It could get hacked. The thing is, guys, 80% or more, actually more than 80% of the transactions done in the world today are digital. They're debited, they're credited. It's all digital. And that form of digital transacting is not cryptographic. It's not. And it's a lot easier to hack. Banks get hacked, your accounts get hacked, identity fraud, identity theft, credit card scams. That's hacking. It's to some degree, right? It's not, hacking isn't this thing where they type in a code and they're working it and they break the system and they get in and stuff like that. But really, when you're hacked, it's basically like information scams. That's when you're stolen from digitally. That's what people consider hacking. Like most people think it's like what you see in the movies, but really it's just petty stuff, low level life scam scum pieces of crap taking your money that they don't earn at all, but you're foolish enough to fall for the scams. And oftentimes these scams, you know, it's more of a learning lesson for people. They seem legit, and it's you might feel dumb after the fact, but I don't think people are dumb for falling for scams. You're dumb for falling for multiple scams. You should learn your lesson. You know what I mean? But if you haven't been scammed before and you get scammed once, man, I mean it happens. I think if you take the right protocols, the right procedures, you can avoid being scammed, but you have to be very skeptical. But we'll get into that in a second. 80% of the transactions in the world are digital. Over 80% are digital, and they're not secure. Did you guys know that back before 2018, Visa was losing billions of dollars every single year to scams, to credit card scams, to debit scams, billions of dollars a year. And in 2018, that number went down dramatically. Do you know why it went down dramatically in 2018? Because in 2018, Visa implemented blockchain technology. They implement, yes, it's true. I'm not making this up. I actually learned this, and I don't know why it's not headline news, but you can look up Visa security protocols. Look up, does Visa transact with the cryptocurrency? Do they have a Visa token? Just look it up on whatever. Is that a thing? If not, you can literally go to Visa's security protocols themselves, look it up on their own. I literally did this because I was bored years ago, back in 2018, and I discovered this on my own because no headlines were talking about this. Every time you use a Visa card, you're using cryptocurrency. And why is that? That's because it's more secure. It's the most secure. It's the most secure form of transacting digitally. And that's what I'm talking about in evolution of finance and evolution of the way that we spend currency. That's Bitcoin, right? They're not using Bitcoin to do this. They created their own currency, and it's just a one-to-one value. But now they don't, it's debited to some degree, but it's really just like a transaction on their own blockchain. They have their own token, and it makes it more secure. And they've seen a lot less in hacks and stuff like that, where it's easier to roll back hacks and freeze. Like it's easier for them to chase money because of it. I'm getting away from what I'm trying to say here, right? 80%, over 80% of transactions are digital. Cryptocurrency is the most secure form of transacting digitally. In this world, my question to you is, do you think that we will begin to phase out digital transactions, or will digital transactions only come in more and more? All right, it's really not a question. The world is going digital. It is digital, and it's going to continue going that direction, whether you like it or not. That's just how it is. And whenever it comes to transacting money, the most secure form of digital transactions is blockchain technology, and Bitcoin is the first. It's the Mac Daddy of cryptocurrency, right? Now, what makes Bitcoin money, again, is just a simple belief that it's money. US dollars used to be backed by gold. It had some kind of intrinsic value backing it. And then we got off the gold standard, and we literally proved to the whole world that you don't need something backing it. You just need people to accept that it has value and give it value. And boom, now you have money. Right now, Bitcoin is money. It is money, but not everybody accepts it, right? You go to Mexico and you're using pesos, that's cool. But if you try to spend Swiss francs or francs or whatever, however you pronounce it, they're not going to accept that. But that doesn't mean Swiss francs aren't money, right? Pesos are money there, and they just don't accept the franc or the franc or whatever it is, the franc. A lot of places accept US dollars, especially in Central and South America. A lot of places do, but you know, you're not going to find Canadian dollars there or Bahamian money there. Like they don't accept that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe some people will, but that doesn't mean that it's not currency. It's just a matter of acceptance, right? Bitcoin right now has acceptance. There's people that will accept Bitcoin for art, for houses, for pizza, for various things, man, for cars, for all kinds of stuff, political bribes, drugs, all kinds of stuff. And by the way, if you're doing illegal stuff with Bitcoin, here's the deal. Bitcoin is insanely traceable. Now there are mixers, there are ways to where you can get Bitcoin to be less traceable, but in theory, I suppose, I mean, if it's really hard if you're trying to transact a crypto to not be traceable, Bitcoin's probably not the first choice in there. So what's kind of beneficial about Bitcoin, especially if it becomes a currency, a reserve currency in the United States, it becomes accepted tender in the United States, and you have politicians or shady people, shady deals being done. If all politicians were forced to use Bitcoin in their transactions, that's the only option they had, it would be a publicly traceable ledger that everybody could see. There would be no fraudulent spending, or if there were, it would be easy to trace who sent what to who, because it's public information. Anybody could, your 8-year-old son, your 60-year-old grandma, they could look it up on their own. And if they know what they're doing, they can figure out what address is sending what to who. It's a publicly accessible ledger. And that's something that's also pretty unique, with the dollar, with the US dollar. And it's ironic, it's rich when you hear people say that Bitcoin's for criminals, because really the US dollar is for criminals, right? The most illicit crimes and horrendous crimes and low level crimes, all crimes happen with the US dollar funding them, right? If it happens with Bitcoin, that's dumb on the crime people's part. Now there are cryptos that have dark pools. There are cryptos that have a way of hiding the transactions, right? There are privacy coins that exist, but Bitcoin is not one of those, right? So, and beyond all of that, that might not be something to add to the value, but that is kind of an interesting aspect. I really do think that politicians, like if they were forced to do any kind of political or government spending strictly on a publicly accessible ledger, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, I think that would solve a lot of fraud and waste stuff. I mean, if anybody could trace that at any time of the day, you're talking about forced transparency at that point, right? And that's the thing with Bitcoin. It is kind of a forced transparency. With banks, with debit cards, with credit cards, you're basically doing this, right? Like you here are sending money to this person here, but in the middle, I don't know, I've got this little water bottle cap. You've got the bank transacting it, right? So, but not it's not even like that. It's actually you are putting money in the bank, so the bank is transacting to another bank or another account, and then that money goes to the person finally. So it's like a third party, fourth party system, right? Because it's oftentimes what you're doing whenever you transact, if you spend money at a grocery store, you're taking your money, but you're using the bank. So you're taking your money through the bank, sending it to the grocery store, but it's actually going through the grocery store's bank, and then it finally gets to the grocery store, right? With Bitcoin, it's all debited, and it happens instantaneously. We know that we see the numbers on the screen go down from your account. We see the numbers in the screen go up on their account, but that money isn't transferred instantly. It's just debited instantly, right? You have access to that money because of how implemented and how ingrained integrated the banking system is. It's easy, right? Bitcoin will get to that point too, except it won't be debited. It'll be straight immediate transacted. With Bitcoin, it's literally just you sending money to this person. It's just simple, right? It's just you using the blockchain. It's not even it's a third party system on the blockchain, but it's not. It's like it's just it's a vehicle for you to send money through. That's it. And what's great about Bitcoin too is you can send value at any point of the day, any day of the week, any time of the year, and there's nothing that can stop it, right? You can use all kinds of ways to access the blockchain, but the internet is one of the more prominent ways. People literally have transacted Bitcoin through radio waves. So even if the internet went down, they could transact Bitcoin with using radio waves, and there's other means too. With Bitcoin, if it's a holiday, it's a banking holiday, and your sister, your brother, your mother is halfway across the world in some other country, and they need money. Something happened, they got robbed, and they literally need money. Not because their life depends on it, but maybe they don't have a hotel. They got robbed. They don't have their hotel key. They had to buy an extension, whatever. They don't have their plane tickets. I don't know, right? Whatever it might be, they need money. Okay, maybe they're hostage, but hopefully not, right? But they need money, and they're halfway across the world. But it's on a Friday when the banks have closed already. It's on a Saturday, Sunday when the banks have closed already. It's on a Monday, but it's a holiday and the banks are closed. If you're trying to wire transfer, you're going to have to wait until the hours of operation, right, of whatever area, whatever business that you're using to wire transfer. You're also going to have to wait for that wire transfer to go through, and you're going to have to pay a sizable fee in the amount of money that you're sending over, right? It's not crazy, but it's a lot higher than what you would pay in a transaction for Bitcoin. With Bit, and you have to dress up, you have to shower, you have to go, you have to answer all the questions. Yes, I'm sending this amount of money. No, it's not a scam. I know who I'm sending it to, right? They ask you and go through all these procedures with your money, even though you know what you want to do with it. It's just a pain in the ass. Where with Bitcoin, and beyond all that, you have to get the money. You have to actually bring the money right over, or have your account information, right? And with Bitcoin, you have to have your account information too. But with Bitcoin, you can just send it from your house. You don't need to shower. You don't need to get dressed. I mean, you can if you want to, whatever. But you can just send it from your house. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Doesn't matter what time of night it is. If someone needs that money and you have access to their wallet, it doesn't matter what country they're in. You can send it to them. And whenever you do send things from one country to another country, as far as wiring goes, there's a tax. There's oftentimes, if not every time, a tax. And all they're doing is going from one bank to another, debiting. They're not sending those physical dollars from one part of the country to another country. That's not what's happening, right? There's no need to tax you or fee you, but they fee you just for using this simple transaction system that they have, which costs them pennies to the dollar, and they're charging you X amount of dollars, hundreds of dollars, however much you're sending, right, in proportion to the amount that you're wiring. Hundreds of dollars, tens of dollars, whatever it might be. Bitcoin doesn't do that, right? It's fractional. It's very insignificant compared to the amount of money that you send in these kind of scenarios here, right? You send it. There's nobody else, no banks, no international taxes or anything like that. You send it from point A to point B. It gets there. It can get there at whatever time of day you want, and boom, you have it. Now, a lot of people at this point like to ask, okay, but I have it, so when do I transfer it back to dollars? Well, ideally, in the future, as I was, referencing other countries accepting certain currencies but not other currencies, ideally in the future, and in a future that's not too far away, Bitcoin will be utilized as currency anywhere and everywhere. And there's a lot of places, especially in the Eastern Hemisphere, that do accept cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of places in Central and South America that accept cryptocurrencies as well, and you can spend them. Or you might have to wait, maybe you have to go to a Bitcoin ATM or something, or you might have to go to, if you want to transact it into dollars, you'll have to figure that out, and you will have to use the banking system for that. But if you can find somebody that accepts Bitcoin, and there are people out there in the world right now, it is getting there. And the idea would be that in a system that's like the US dollar right now, you'd basically be able to use this money right away and immediately, and with no interaction of other figures, other government players or banking institutions interfering with your money. Now, the risks with Bitcoin, the risks with crypto is basically something we touched on already, right? It puts you in charge of your own financial destiny. It puts you in charge. And this is something that's new to humans. It's not new as in we've never had it before. We did have it back in the days of trade, back in the days even with like coins, gold coins and stuff like that, or just like gold and gems and jewels or whatever, like before like actual notes happened. But ever since banks came along, human beings have forgotten what it's like, or at least not been as aware, as knowledgeable uh, for handling their own currency, for handling their own finances, their own savings, their own wealth. The banks handle it. If a scammer comes your way, if something happens, you call the bank. They freeze your cards. They roll back the transactions. They get your money for you. Everything's taken care of. With Bitcoin, there's no rolling back. You send it, it gets received. There's no rolling back. It doesn't happen. So you have to be careful. There are a lot of scams out there. In finance and anything that has to do with money, there are so many scams. So many scams, right? That's what happens. And if you're in crypto, a lot of people, there's a saying in crypto that says, like, your indoctrination into crypto, once you've gotten scammed, welcome to crypto. You're a veteran now, or like now you've earned your stripes. Or so it's not that's not the saying, but it's something on those lines. I don't know the words exactly, but I just remember when I got in, if I ever heard of people getting scammed, I would just see people say, welcome to crypto. Now you're a part of the now you're part of the movement. Don't get scammed, right? It's not something that's fun. I don't want anybody to get scammed. There's no real reason to be scammed, and the only way that you will get scammed is if you're being greedy or being silly, right? Nobody needs your keys. Nobody needs your passwords. Nobody is going to have you send them X amount of cryptocurrency and then send you twice as much back. Okay, that's a very common scam in this space. Less so now, but still pretty common. People will say, "Hey, send me Ethereum," or they'll pretend to be Elon Musk or Donald Trump or something. They'll say, "We're doing this thing, send me some Ethereum, send me some Bitcoin here." If you ever hear this, just know it's a scam. No matter how much you want to believe it's true, it's too good to be true. It probably is too good to be true. If anybody says, send this to this address and we will double it, it's a one-time thing. We're just trying to, blah, blah, blah. No matter how legit it sounds, anytime it says, send it here and we'll double it back to you, it's BS. It's a lie. It's a scam. Don't do that, okay? Anytime people are asking for your personal information, really anywhere these days, not just with crypto, but anytime people are asking for your personal information, you shouldn't give it out. You shouldn't give it out, right? I just had an ad for a auto insurance rate. It was saying, put in your zip code here and see if you qualify for better auto insurance. That's a scam. They want your zip code, so that's another piece in their puzzle to get to your financial access to financial information, so that you can access your bank accounts and stuff like that, right? People, I'm getting away from the whole point here, but just talking about security. Really be aware of scams, guys. There's a lot of scams in this space. It happens, but that doesn't mean that crypto's fraudulent. There are fraudulent people involved in crypto. There are fraudulent people involved with the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar has a lot more scams than crypto does. Okay. Where do I go from here? So Bitcoin what's better about Bitcoin than the US dollar, first off, is that it's not inflationary permanently. It has 21 million Bitcoins. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins. It can't happen. People might say, well, what if it's hacked? It can't get hacked, man. It's theoretically possible, sure. Just like it's theoretically possible that tomorrow the sun could blow up, but I would bet on it not blowing up. You know what I mean? Like genuinely, probably it might even be more possible for the sun to blow up than it would be for Bitcoin to get hacked at this point in time. I'm just saying. You would have to have so much mining power, so much hashing power, literally billions of dollars worth of computing power at this point in time. You'd have to be willing to put that money in. And by the way, for what do I mean by computing power? I don't mean computers that can just do anything. I mean specific computers that are designed to mine Bitcoin. You would have to willingly put in billions of dollars into this, like hundreds of billions, dude. I don't even know. It's ridiculous. It's the last time I checked, it was like $80 billion, but I think at this point it's like hundreds of billions of dollars. Like this, the last time I checked was like 5 years ago, so it's probably hundreds of billions of dollars at this point. You'd have to be willing to put in hundreds of billions of dollars into mining equipment, have it all synced up to where you own 51% of the hashing power, the transacting power, the mining power, the computing power of Bitcoin. Those are all the same words, just in different phrases, right? 51% or more theoretically, and then you'd have to synchronize all of these all of these computers at once, these miners at once, to pull off some kind of large scam. And it's a theory, because how would you? I mean, you could coordinate it to where every single thing is on a timer or something, and it all transacts in a false manner and sends Bitcoins to one address or something like that. But as soon as that happens, as soon as if there was a 51% attack that happened, that's what they call it, a 51% attack or more, and it had control of the blockchain, it had control of the overall server, and they crashed the network by sending them amounts of Bitcoins, by siphoning off Bitcoins from other accounts, by falsifying things, and literally hacking the network, instantly all the servers around the world would be aware of it. Something would happen and Bitcoin would go to zero. So essentially, hear me out, you'd have to put hundreds of billions of dollars into mining for a theoretical possibility at destroying the network. And when you destroy the network, you get nothing out of it. You get no value. It's all gone. You spent all that money for no reason. And my face is frozen. I'm just a master ventriloquist here. I don't know why. My camera's, it's still working. At least it says it's still working. Let's wow. Huh. That's weird. Interesting. Oh no, it's because it's not the internet. It's Irian webcam. It keeps canceling out sometimes. I say it keeps canceling out sometimes. That's what it does. But I don't know about you guys. You know, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but I don't know too many people who have, you know, even $100 to their name that are willing to burn $100. I don't know about billionaires, multi-hundred billionaires. But I would think they're not willing to spend that amount of money just for the sake of saying F you to Bitcoin. No, they're more likely to siphon off the system to make money off of it just by investing, right? That's the thought there. But who knows? Maybe it's theoretically possible, but probably not. Bitcoin is dramatically less likely to get hacked than your bank account is. Your bank account, your credit cards, your debit cards, more likely to get hacked, way easier to hack. Bitcoin being hacked should not be a concern. Maybe at one point, but not at this point anymore, guys. We're beyond that. So get out of here with that if anybody's concerned about that or telling you that it can get hacked. It can't get hacked, man. At this point, your stocks are more easily hacked. Your banks are more easily hacked, and even then, hacking banks is harder now because they use digital currency. They use cryptocurrency in their transactions, or at least Visa does. I don't know about every bank, but Visa does. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. They can't be counterfeited. They can't be faked because of the way that the blockchain works. They can't be faked. The whole system of servers around the world, they all agree. They have to agree. They have to be in consensus together. And if somebody tries to create a false Bitcoin or something and it comes onto the network, it's just 1 or even 10% of the hashing power, which would be a lot of money still to have that much. And they want to falsify things. They want to counterfeit or make fake Bitcoins out there. The system will see that and be like, nope, these aren't real. We're not going to accept this. This is BS. You know, it's not something that can happen. So it's non-counterfeitable, where the US dollar is counterfeitable. It is instantly transactable anywhere around the world. The US dollar is not, gold is not, silver is not, right? No precious metals are. If you want to send precious metals or anything like that, you have to send it. You have to pay gas. You have to pay a security force to deal with that and keep your stuff secure while it's sending. Not with Bitcoin. You can just do that instantly. It's there. Not with crypto. It's there. And Bitcoin is not the most efficient crypto out there, but it is the Mac Daddy. It's the oldest one, and it has a store of value because of that. It has the most belief and it has a finite limit, right? And the decentralized proof of work aspect, which a lot of coins just aren't able to achieve these days because now whenever you have proof of work coins coming out, they can get 51% attacked easily because they don't have the network built up as much, right? That's what adds to the value, is that Bitcoin has this broad network across the board. Now you might be thinking, maybe you're thinking in this whole video, okay, but what's the actual value of Bitcoin? Why does it have value? Just because we say it has value, that's not enough for me. Okay, and if you still can't get on board with that, that's fine. But why Bitcoin has value is beyond just the belief that it has value, beyond just the fact of all the things that we've talked about already. It has value in a simple sense that it costs money to produce Bitcoins. It costs money to mine Bitcoins. All right, there's money involved whenever it comes to your electric bill mining Bitcoins. And I forget what the the cost to mine a Bitcoin is now. But it's worth like tens of thousands of dollars just to mine one Bitcoin or something like that, right? So it's in that sense, it costs money to mine, right? It's like with gold, they don't spend however much money to mine a pound of gold and then they sell it for less than a pound. No, you sell it for what you believe people think it's worth, plus the added input that you put in for work, the added cost of work, right? So the added cost of labor. Same thing with Bitcoin. There's a physical amount of labor that's happening in the real world with your computer running, with your miner running, and having these transactions costing power and stuff like that. There's value there. And at that certain rate, that gives us the floor with Bitcoin as far as like, is it profitable to mine Bitcoin? Are people, making enough money? Are they spending enough money? Are they able to sell their Bitcoins at a rate that gives them profit for the amount of money that they're spending mining Bitcoins, right? And that kind of sets the floor. And it's very rare and very, very short-lived anytime that we see the average cost of mining a Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin go below there. That's oftentimes like the low ends of the bear market. Okay. I feel like I'm all over the place and I'm trying to think of where to go next. I know we've talked about a lot, but I'm going to try to just summarize it here, I guess, and then we'll end the video, okay? Bitcoin is immutable. Oh, that's another point, actually. It's immutable, right? Nobody can stop it. The Canadian government, back whenever the Canadian truck drivers were on strike and the government was freezing their assets and stuff like that, they literally gave Bitcoin a platform to shine, because what they did then was they had people send them Bitcoin, had them send them cryptocurrency so that they could use that to buy food, to continue with their protests, to do everything, right? Because they were locked out of their banks. The government, Trudeau of Canada at the time, literally was like, hey, stop sending this. If you guys keep sending crypto, we're going to sue you guys. Or we're going to sue the blockchain. We're going to take it down. And he didn't know how stupid that actually was, because you can't do that. Who are you going to sue? It's like saying, I'm going to sue the internet. I'm going to sue the internet. I'm going to sue the sun for sunburning me. That's not how it works, man. You can't do that. And they couldn't. They put these threats of nonsense out there, and the Canadian truckers, even though they weren't happy, even though the government wasn't happy they were receiving money, funds, there's nothing they could do to stop it. Nothing they could do. The government, for once in their life, has no power over your finances. You can do something that they don't approve of, and they can't freeze your shit. They can't take it back. They can't withhold funds from you or your earnings from you. It's not their say. They have no say. Not their keys, not their Bitcoin. Now, they could come to your door and forcibly try to have you give them your keys and your passwords. Maybe you forgot them, They can't just go digging in your backyard for gold like they did with people who are hiding gold, right? And they probably will come for people's Bitcoins at some point, but if you forget your keys, your passwords, whatever, they can't make you give them, right? If you just don't know what they are, right? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But beyond that, they can't freeze your stuff. So it's immutable. It's unconfiscatable, right? It is what's the word I'm looking for? Counterfeitable. It's non-counterfeitable, right? It's unique. You can't counterfeit it. With the dollar, you can counterfeit it. And people say that the dollar or that Bitcoin is so energy sucking that it's bad for the environment. You guys, do you know how much waste, how much pollution is created anytime we generate dollars? There's all these dyes. You have to cut down trees for the paper, coins and change and stuff like that. And the servers that run Visa and that run all the digital transactions there, you don't think that costs energy? The US dollar is more, and any dollar is more impactful to the environment than Bitcoin ever could be. The majority of Bitcoin mining is done through sustainable means, through renewable energy. Actually, a lot of it is, and there's only more ways to, like, literally. Did you know that in Wyoming, you can mine Bitcoin tax free if you use like the excess energy in an oil refinement, oil production field, in an oil field. Like, there's a certain amount of oil that gets burned off or something like that, and if you use that or energy that gets burned off whenever you're processing oil. I don't know everything. I'm not an oil guy, but they passed a bill like 4 years ago where you can mine Bitcoin tax free if you use that excess energy. Or there's places in Southern America, Southeastern America, that they are literally mining Bitcoin with trash. In a dump, they have these pipelines underneath the dump to help methane and gases release so that things can decompose properly. And with that, they literally put these generators, power generators, that run off of the methane that's being produced from trash, literally running from trash. You have these generators running from trash, and they're connected to Bitcoin miners, and they mine Bitcoin with trash. Literally, look it up. I'm not making any of this up. And even the oil thing, which I'm not well spoken on, just look that up. I'm not making that up either. Wyoming has a tax-free law where you can mine Bitcoin with excess thermal energy or oil? I don't remember what it is, but something like that. There's all kinds of ways, and people in the crypto industry hear people with the environmental impacts. They don't want to cause an environmental impact either. And there's a lot of innovation that happens. This is the most innovative space in the world right now, is crypto. These guys are going to figure out a way to do it renewably and sustainably, and they are. They already are, and it's way more renewable and sustainable than the dollar ever could be. Than it ever could be, right? Paper's not just going to fall out of the sky. I mean, I wish some green papers would fall out of the sky, don't we all? But it's immutable. It's unconfiscatable. Immutable in the sense that, right, you can't stop it. Unconfiscatable in the sense that you can't take it from people unless they give it to you. It's non-counterfeitable. It is a finite resource. It's the only finite resource in the planet that is actually considered an asset, right? There are plenty of cryptos that are finite, but they're not the same level as Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is an asset class in itself, and it is the only thing like it on the planet. It's decentralized. No one entity controls it. All entities control it. Anybody who wants to participate in the network, they have a say now. They have stake in the game. It's not one entity controlling it. It's all entities controlling it. It is literally money for the people, by the people. And it was created as a hedge against inflation, so that whenever the US banks, whenever the central banks take whatever money that you have, and they take whatever money they have and they artificially grow it, therefore giving them bigger portions, and your portion stays the same and therefore is shrunk in value. They can't do that anymore. Whenever you do something wrong and they want to freeze your assets, they can't do that anymore. And I'm just repeating myself at this point, but Bitcoin, and there's probably a lot of stuff that I've missed. Read the comments. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are like, well, what about this? What about this too? There's so many good things about crypto and Bitcoin. And I've made this video longer than I intended to. But hopefully you have some kind of understanding of the value of cryptocurrency, right? Of the value of Bitcoin by the end of this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.